For my fabrics, I've got 2 pieces that are 6 by 8 for the back. I've got 1 piece that's 6 by 6 for the outer edge. I've got a piece that's 5 by 5 for the middle, some organza for the ghost, and I've also got some batting for the middle. I'm using up scraps today, so these are ideal projects for using bits and pieces that you've got left over. And then I've got some variegated thread for the fancy stitching, black for the features, and I've already loaded white into my machine for the main of the stitching. Not to forget some sharp scissors, curved scissors, and we're ready to go. I'm going to start off by hooping my cutaway stabiliser into my frame. And now I'm going to put it in my machine to do the outline stitching. Okay, so my outline is now stitched. I'm going to lay down my batting pieces. As I mentioned before, I'm using up bits and bobs that I've got left over, so I'm just going to butt these 2 pieces up close together. You can use Pellon, you can use whatever it is you have available. And then on top of that, I'm going to add my 6 by 6 fabric on top, and make sure again that it overlaps the outline that's already been stitched, which this does. So next I'm going to pop it into my machine to do the next second round of stitching. So my lines have been stitched for the second colour. Now you don't have to follow the colours that are given on your embroidery machine. You can use anything that you want. I've just cut the little jump thread there. And now I'm going, because this is a dark colour and I'm going to put a light colour over the top, I don't want it showing through. So what I'm going to do is remove this centre fabric here. And all I'm going to do, I'm using my quick unpick there, just to lift the fabric so that I can just slide my scissors in, and I will just cut around close to the stitching here. I don't want to cut the stitching itself. Okay, so that's been removed, and the next thing I'm going to do is put the centre fabric in the middle, making sure that it overlaps this outline, and then I'm going to pop it back into my machine and stitch it down. Okay, so my white fabric is now stitched in place, and I've also got the outline for my ghost as well. So I'm going to place my organza over the ghost. And I'm not an advocate of pins in machines, but sometimes you have to pin the fabric, and because this is quite slippery, I'm just going to put 2 pins in, one at the top and one at the bottom, out of the way of the stitching, so that it holds the organza and stops it from slipping around. Do be very careful with pins, they can do a lot of damage to your machine. Make sure that they're not in the way of the stitching. Okay, so I'm now going to pop that back into my machine, and it's going to stitch the ghost. I'm going to remove my pins. Oops. And I'm going to cut away the excess fabric from around the ghost and also around this inner stitch line as well. Just use my big scissors just to get to it, and then I'm just going to cut close to the stitching, and then around the ghost. And now for the white fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to pop it into my machine, and it's going to zigzag all around the raw edges. The next round of stitching is a spider's web. As I'm still doing that in white, I'm going to just push the button to get it stitching again, and it will do the web. Next it's going to stitch colour 7, which is the ghost. You can stitch these in whatever colour you want. If you want to change colours, now's the time to do so. Mine's staying in white, so we can carry straight on. So there you can see the web stitching and the outline of the ghost. The next is going to be the boo and the eyes feature. So I've already changed the thread on my machine to dark grey, and I'm just going to pop it back in now and stitch out the features. Next it's going to stitch the word boo. If you don't want this on there, you can skip ahead to colour number 10, but I'm going to stitch this out. Okay, so the features and the boo word has been done. Next it's going to be this frame here. I've already changed the thread in my machine to variegated. It's like orange and yellow, so that should make it stand out nicely. So I'm now going to pop it back in my machine to stitch that. So all my variegated border has now been done, and I'm now going to add the backing, and that's done in 2 pieces. I'm going to place these with the fold towards the centre so that they're going to overlap, and I'm just going to align it to the edge of my fabric there, like so. And just for good measure, so that it doesn't move during stitching, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape just to hold it in place. Just a little bit at the top and bottom. Okay, now I'm going to pop it back in my machine, and it's going to stitch the backing on. Okay, I did add an extra couple of pieces of tape on just so that the foot didn't catch as it came over this join. I'm now going to remove all the tape. And I'm going to take it out of the frame now. Let's just pop that aside. And I'm going to trim it up all around the edge, about 1/4 of an inch from the stitch line. Around that corner, and then I'm going to just snip in on the corners, but not actually cutting to the stitching. It's just so that when I turn it out the right way, it all lays nicely on the corners. Definitely don't want to catch the stitching on this, otherwise it'll all come undone. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it out the right way, and I'm just going to push my fingers into these corners to round them so they poke out nicely. That's half of it out, and now the second half. And there we have it. A nice ghost coaster ready for Halloween. I do love these projects, and with this tutorial you can do many of the other coasters that are on the Kreative Kiwi website as well. There's the poppies, there's the pumpkin, the Easter bunny. There's all sorts on there, so you've got a lot of choice just from learning this technique. I'm just going to cut the jump stitches from the features here. And I think we can call that finished. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you join me again soon.